Welcome to the Dharamshala International Film Festival 2020. Today we're with Pushpendra Singh talking about his film, The Pearl of the Desert, or Maru Romoti, if I said that correctly. And if you haven't seen it, I urge you to do so as soon as possible because it is indeed a really great film. So a little bit about the film. The Pearl of the Desert is a docu-fiction film that follows the journey of Moti, a young Manganiyar that sings out to be free from the shackles of old customs. After a musical journey of his own, he realizes where his own music belongs. Pushpendra, hello and welcome
Hi.
to this digital Q&A session. I am going to be asking you some questions about the film. So to start off, I want to ask you sort of a very basic question. What drew you to tell a story about the Manganiyas, which I know I'm butchering that pronunciation. So
Yes.
once you say it, I'll know how to say it properly. So what drew you to tell their story, and how did you find Moti?
I shot my first film, my debut film, Lajwanti, in this village called Barna, which is in Jaisalmer, with the help of Manganiyas and Kalbelias and Tera Tali, this community. So these non-professionals, they came together and helped me. So a Manganiyar called Anwar Khan was my assistant also, and he was helping me in the production. So I sourced all my materials, like my costume, jewelry, etc., from the village, from the people. So when we were shooting in the village, there were these Manganiyar kids who would follow us, while shooting. And then during the breaks, they would get together and sing. I was already fascinated by the singing. So it struck me that, I should explore this oral tradition. So I was talking to Anwar, and Anwar spoke about this harvesting ritual called Bhanat. So when they harvest, actually they sing. And so I came back, and it intrigued me because there are lots of documentaries made on Manganiyas. And India Foundation for Arts has also given a lot of grants. And in the past also, ARC and NCPA have done a lot of research. They've documented. And Komal Kothari is this pioneer who's also worked a lot on Manganiyar traditions. So I knew I wanted to do something different from what has been done before. So Anwar was my guide, and he spoke about Bhanat, and nothing has been done on Bhanat. And then, I had this dictionary on Rajasthani and Hindi words, which was done by Vijay Dandeta, who's the writer on whose story I had adapted my first film. So when I saw the word Bhanat also meant, education. So, I thought, wow, that's very interesting. Bhanat, a ritual, harvesting ritual by the Manganiyas, and also education. So how does this oral tradition of the Manganiyas, how it's transferred from one generation to another, that intrigued me. And I thought, let's make a film on that oral tradition and harvesting ritual, how they harvest and how it comes together. So yeah, that was my source. And then when my debut film was completed, I took the same cinematographer, Ravi, and we went, and then we screened this film. And then with Anwar, I said, let's explore this. So he set up this meeting, and, where this older guys, they're teaching this younger generation.
Yeah.
That's where, suddenly Moti, he joined in late. And then I said, okay, let's explore him also. And I was intrigued by his voice. It was very dynamic.
Right.
So, I knew all the children, but not Moti. So I asked Anwar, wow, he's like a surprise, like he's a new child. I haven't explored him. So it was a discovery. So Anwar told me that, his village is Khaltana, which is near the border. And during the Diwali break, he was visiting the village, So Anwar and his family, they were like the maternal uncles to him. So yeah, then I said, oh, I haven't seen that village. And then I went to his village, which was like even remote in the desert. So then, I said, okay, I'm following his journey now. because Barna is still a little modern village. There are these tourist resorts, etc. But his village is like even remote in the desert. You know, it's cut off from uh, the outside,
Yeah.
the modernity. You know, what's
Right.
coming in. So then, yeah, it took an organic way path, and then it became Moti's journey, slowly and slowly.
I see. And speaking of that organic quality of the film, there's this very sort of seamless blend of documentary and also what I'm assuming are more crafted moments, more sort of scripted moments. So I
Exactly.
wanted to ask you what compelled you to take that docu-fiction route. Was that also a sort of an organic decision, or was
Yeah,
it
it was an
necessary?
it was an organic decision because I shot the film over 5 years, and
Okay.
after that was my first schedule when I discovered Moti, and then I came back and then I was looking at um, the rushes, and then we went to shoot the second time also. So the second time I had this idea about how nature influences their singing, uh, and how do they, what is the source of their songs. So that was my idea. Uh, so during that schedule, while we were exploring that, it struck me that they have, because they would always say that when a child is born in a community, his first cry is also uh, you know uh, he sings in the right sur, which means
Hmm.
right notes while singing also, while crying also.
Yeah.
Like, but how do I get this quality, this truth actually? So then, while exploring, I would give them this task that, okay, let's explore this. Like, okay, if you're talking about what has happened with Moti, what if you improvise and you improvise musically? So it's like,
And right, I noticed that. Yeah.
yeah, because they have this poem also which they speak in chants. So I said, okay, let's improvise this, and then it came out very naturally to them. So that struck me. Okay, I have to bring this quality out in the film. So let me stage this. This setting. I set up the camera and I ask them to improvise, and then they do it. Because I believe that uh, all documentaries in a way are also very subjective. The way you set up your camera,
Sure.
you tell the story, and as the camera comes, your subjects, however comfortable you become with your subjects, after a point, a camera is there, and they perform for the camera, so the performance never goes away. So
Right.
so I said, I don't want to hide that, you know. So, let me bring that quality that the audience is also aware that, at the end, it's a performance. And Manganiyas perform, their whole,
Right.
and the whole culture is rooted on performance. They perform for their patrons. So, this whole the culture of performativity should also reflect in the film. So then it became an organic process.
You were talking about nature and how that influences the music of the Manganiyas. I think I said it right that
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And there's some really beautiful moments that I think highlight that. One is where Moti's uncle is describing how the birds, the
Yeah,
song of the birds and the song of humans is the same. There's
exactly.
also, I think one of my favorite shots from the film is when his uncle is singing in the
Yeah,
darkness
yeah,
as it's raining. And
yeah,
it sounds like he's improvising, like he's just sort of
yeah,
coming
yeah,
up with the lyrics on the spot.
yeah,
He's just sort of taking influence from nature.
yeah.
And I was just wondering if you could comment a little bit more about why nature is so important to the music of the Manganiyars. Is it just because that is the landscape that has surrounded them for generations, or is it something else?
Yeah, mostly their singing is rooted in singing for their patrons. So if you look at the songs, they are built around rituals of marriage, rituals of childbirth. Similarly, a woman visits the bride when she's leaving the house, or a child grows up, so they celebrate certain landmarks, so they sing. But also there's a confluence of culture, because the Thar Desert was part of a huge confluence of culture and singing. People would come from Iran and they would go to Punjab or the Silk Route. So it was so that singing tradition was always there. But what attracted me to the singing was, when they sing, they sing in the open, and the singing actually, has this quality of a voice which could, travel distances.
Yeah. Yes.
So that really struck me, and while interacting with Anwar, I was asking his hobbies, what does he like, and he has this fascination for birds. He would go for bird sighting, so he has this huge knowledge of birds, and then the kind of wisdom they bring. So also Sufi songs. So then I thought, let me bring this quality also in the film. So then I told Anwar actually to talk about that also in the film. And then, he compared the raga structure of the Manganiyas, how they see that, and he improvised that with his understanding of birds. So there was also an improvisation which happened.
I see. And this is more of a technical question, but I'm just curious, because you were able to capture so many special moments that weren't scripted. How much like footage did you have by the end of your 5 years of shooting? I'm guessing a lot.
No, not a lot. Not a
Oh,
lot.
okay.
Yeah, because I would go there for, because I also wanted to tap seasons. So, because the summer is very hot, so you can't go there and you can't shoot.
Sure.
Wouldn't work. So what we would go was in October, November, February, March, and then because I wanted monsoon also, so, I went there in September also, so yeah, but I would go there for maximum 5 days, So, and then, you go at any time. In the afternoons, it's very difficult to shoot. It's very, because in the desert, it's very hot.
Okay.
We had a very limited time. It was like early mornings, and then in the evenings we could shoot, or sometimes rarely in the nights. So, in a schedule of 5 days, we were shooting only at that time. So it wasn't much.
I found it very interesting to see a young boy like Moti sing songs that have such sort of mature observations about grief, loss, suffering, the beauty of nature, opium. And it made me wonder, did you get the sense that Moti and even the other younger children knew what they were singing about? Or is there something, or is it something different for them? Is it simply that they're memorizing this tradition?
I think initially it's the memorizing of the tradition. But as they grow up, because they repeat it again and again and again and again, and slowly they pick up. Because what, in my interactions with Anwar and other Manganiyas, what I've realized is I found them, the wisest persons in my interactions from wherever in the world. You can talk to them about our whole tradition of Sufism, Bhakti, Krishna, and the history of the desert. Because they sing for Rajputs, so there are older people. You can talk to them about different subcastes of Rajputs and their history and their culture. Because the way they memorize, it's in their oral tradition.
Right.
They memory. Slowly, with the younger generation, it's going away, because as with oral traditions, we know that when there was no bookkeeping, when they did not write, they could remember more. But then depending on books, and now because of recordings have come, they depend on recordings more and more. So their memory power is getting weaker and weaker. But also they mature very young in the desert. they get married very fast.
Right.
And they have kids very fast. And you look at the people and you ask the age, you think that they're in the 50s and you realize that they're in the 30s.
Okay,
And
right.
if you look at a kid, you think that, he's 14 or 15 and you ask his age, you'll find that he's only 8 years old. So also
Yeah.
because the harsh nature, they start working early, they start experiencing things very early. So they get used to life very early, and so they mature very fast also.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering about Moti. Did you get the sense of why he was so passionately drawn to music? There's that scene towards the end when he's come back from his performances abroad, and he says he's never going to give up music, and that's a really powerful moment. And I was just wondering what was it for him? Was it? I got the sense that he had a strong desire to maintain this tradition, but also something else. Like, was he just passionate about the music itself, or did you get the sense that it was something different?
Yeah, it's there. There's an interesting episode which happened with me, because before Moti, there was another boy called Dayam Khan. Intrigued me, very passionate in his childhood. This was when I was shooting my feature film. So Dayam's father, he's also a very good singer, and he sings in the Manganiyas seduction. And I was talking to him, and he said, I have this feeling that he'll give up on singing. He won't sing when he grows up. And I said, no, but he's such a passionate, and he's such a good voice. He said, at Manganiyas, we have this understanding who will pick up singing when he grows up and who will not. So then who will pick up singing? And he said, my younger son would pick up. And slowly, as I was shooting over 5 years, I realized Dayam had given up on singing.
Right.
He's there in the initial scene where he's this boy who's guiding others.
Right. Then, oh, yes.
And when this audition happens, he's this guy who's hiding. He runs away. That's a very natural moment. I did not stage also,
Yeah.
So with Moti, he just picked it up. That's why in this Manganiyas people, you see some pick up singing because it's very natural to them. Some, leave it and they don't follow the pursuit, of singing. Moti was just that one kid, and he still continued singing despite the show is over. But now he's singing.
Yeah.
He sings for this resorts. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think some people love singing and some don't. So he's like that, because as a community, it's in India. If you look at how caste system has been, distilled and rooted in our traditions, it's very profession based. So most Manganiyas pick up that profession and they continue with singing, but many leave, and especially in this modern age, many don't follow it, but many still follow that. And Moti is one of those kids. Yeah, he's very passionate about singing and he wants to sing.
And speaking of people who are in the community that don't follow it, and those that do, and also oral tradition sort of dying out, the film also comments on or suggests what the future of the Manganiyas could be like. I mean, we see that one school that is, if not underfunded, just not funded at all, it seems like, and it's dying out. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think the future is for them and their musical tradition? Do you see hope for it, or is it kind of hopeless, do you think?
I won't say it's hopeless because genetically also, I think like they say, when the child is born, he sings in the right note. So it's there in the families.
Right.
They'll sing. So I think they'll continue singing. And tourism, in that sense, however we hate tourism, but it has opened up opportunities for Manganiyas, and they sing for resorts. And unfortunately, the kind of people, tourists, they don't demand. Okay, I've seen that, they demand like for Bollywood singing from Manganiyas singers also. They don't
Oh,
like
I see.
the traditional songs. But at least, so there are many Manganiyas, who see an opportunity there, and so they want their younger generation at least to sing and continue singing. And also this artist, this patron tradition, singing for Rajputs, it's still there. It's still exploitative, but uh, you know, that's how they get they earn actually. So that's a source for their livelihood also. So until it's there, it will continue.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's good to hear, I think. And on that note, it got me wondering, as sort of citizens of India, or as whoever's watching this, um, music lovers, film lovers, foreigners, do you think that there's something we can do to help this tradition stay alive?
I think the only way we can do is uh, you know encourage them, call them for performances and accept that diversity, not go for the easy route of, because, Bollywood has appropriated our folk cultures also. They've taken songs from there and then they brought to Bollywood. For example, this song called Nimbuda Nimbuda, it's a Manganiyar song which was taken to Bollywood,
Okay.
and they expect that version, So to appreciate our oral traditions, our culture, um, and yeah, and then promote that. So cultural institutions, they should promote those traditions, and yeah, that's the way. Uh, by making films, you know, now YouTube is a big source, and it's happening. People are putting it up on YouTube, and people like Royston Abel, they've taken their songs to the world actually by doing shows,
Hmm.
Seduction, Manganiya Classroom. Uh, yeah, so by doing that, I think that's
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Um, and also, as I was watching the film, and I went into the film not knowing much about the Manganiyars at all, and what I found interesting was that it is the musical tradition, at least, is male dominated. So I was curious, what role do the women play, if at all, in this musical tradition?
Uh, yeah, it's sadly, it's a very uh, patriarchal dominated tradition in that sense.
Hmm.
You know, I wanted to shoot women also, but I could not. Uh, uh,
There was that one really beautiful shot of, I
yeah,
think it was just a hand gesture as the singing was going on, that where you see this woman sort of doing
yeah,
this hand gesture to the music. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So there are exceptions. There was Rukma Bai, a Manganiya singer, women singer, who started singing because her husband passed away, and then she wanted to make a living. Uh, and then in Coke Studio, Pakistan, there was Mai Dhai, who became popular.
Mhm.
So uh, those women actually tell us that the roots of their songs also come from women, because you
Mhm.
lyrics, the lyrics are from the point of view of women.
Yeah.
This film. So when the girl is leaving, it's a song about
The Crane song, right?
yeah, the crane song.
Yeah.
Then, when Moti is left in the village, and then when the father sings, it's a song which is from the point of view of a woman who is calling for her male lover who's gone away.
Right.
You look at our own old traditions, so this all the songs of Vira for longing, they are there in our folk traditions also. So I get a sense that it's they come from women,
Hmm.
this whole uh, so yeah, maybe I think slowly and slowly, when this acceptance would come, maybe the women can also come out and then they can also sing, and yeah, they also get this opportunity. Yeah, but it's like because they live with the Rajputs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so Rajputs, if you look at the desert, the Marwad region, their women are also in parda, so it's a very patriarchal setup, and because they depend on Rajputs a lot, so if they are Muslims, but they follow the Rajput culture a lot. The way they dress, the way their women dress, the way they worship the goddess. So, so it's a very plural tradition. But then there are some very good sides of the plural tradition, but then there are very negative sides also of the tradition. So it's there.
Okay. Right. Right. And I also want to bring up the cinematography of the film, which is, of course, very, very striking, and it sort of connects back to um, the Manganiyars' connection with nature, because you do emphasize
Yes.
nature strongly with the cinematography. And I was wondering, was that a conscious decision? Like I don't know if you storyboarded the film or not, but was it conscious that you wanted to create um, shots that were emphasizing the connection of nature between the music, or was that simply coincidental because that was your environment?
No, very, very conscious, very, very,
Mm-hmm.
because while I was making the film, I was reading on music, and then this interest on ethnomusicology, it interested me a lot. And there's a study on ethnomusicology where it says that music of folk cultures is driven by the space and nature and how they draw from space. So I read, and then I wanted to bring that in the film also. That how also the way they sing,
Yeah.
in the film. What I did was, when they were doing a show in Bombay, I took Moti to a studio, a music director I knew, Mangesh.
Right.
So I wanted to test them, and he could not sing because he was tied down with the closed space, and
Right.
the note, he was trying to get the note right, but he could not, because he could not imagine singing in that closed space,
Right.
because they sing in a theater hall, but it's a very large
It's a
space,
bigger space. Yeah.
people, so they are used to that. But
Yeah.
as soon as they went into a studio, he could not sing. So because he hasn't been trained also like that. So that's the contrast also I bring, and point out.
Yeah.
So so when I was shooting, I wanted to bring that quality also in the film, and
Yeah.
discuss this with my cinematographer. We had already shot one film, Lajwanti, in the same space. He was my cinematographer then also, Ravi Kiran. And then he shot my second feature also. So we had that relationship and that understanding.
This is your first foray into documentary territory.
Yes.
What did you learn from this experience, and how is it different for you from making narrative films?
No, I see films as films. I don't see them as documentaries or fiction. Because even if you look at my fiction films, they have this documentary quality because I work with real people.
Mm-hmm.
There are one or two actors. Because I want the authenticity of a space, of the language, of the culture. So, uh, uh, I, I include them also in my filmmaking. So similarly with this documentary, I was always treating it as a film, not as like a documentary. That's why it opened me up, and I could explore this territories of staging, of trying out new things. Uh, so yeah,
Okay, I
the
see.
fine line between fiction and non-fiction is very interesting to explore in filmmaking also, as an art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that moment where um, Moti comes home from the trip abroad? Was that scripted when he comes home and people are sort of celebrating his arrival, or what? Or did you manage to capture that as it was happening? Actually,
I was a day late for that moment. Actually, what had happened was,
okay,
his father, Sattar Khan, he has, because there's network or not, it depends on whether he's traveling outside his village or not.
yeah,
So, and he shares what's happening with Moti all the time. Even now, they keep in touch and they inform me what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, he called me up and then he said, Moti is coming back from Australia. It's his first foreign trip and we'll go and we'll welcome him on the railway station. So there was a big moment I missed. And I said, but you're telling me now, when is he coming? He said, tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I said, but I can't reach tomorrow because there's no airport in Jaisalmer. I have to go to Jodhpur. And
Right.
then, I have to take a cab and then go to his village, which takes almost a day, from Jodhpur going to his village.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I can't just land up tomorrow there. And so I called my cinematographer. I said, we have to go, maybe we can capture something. And so I said, what are arrangements in your village? Maybe we can cover him there. He said, oh, we have invited my relatives, Manganiyas in the village. They are coming here and then we'll have a feast.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. So my cinematographer was also not free. So, we were like 2 days late. And then when we reached there in the village, the people were there, but the feast was also over.
Sure.
And Moti had come back to the village. So then I said, okay, then whatever happened yesterday, let's stage it today.
Okay. Yeah.
So instead we'll get him in the car with Anwar, not with his father. And then he comes down and then you celebrate. That's why I got the women also,
Right.
So then, they forgot that the women have to be hidden. And then the women also came and, they forgot and they were really celebrating it for real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like a real celebration which happened. And then we followed and we shot.
Well, it seemed totally, totally authentic.
Yeah, because they also for a moment forgot,
Right.
food, and it's like it was like a double celebration. So
Yeah. And I'm guessing that can be sort of a magical moment when it's
yeah,
happening. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So I guess my last question for you then is, what do you hope people sort of take away from this film ultimately?
I don't hope anything from any of my audiences will take away, because ultimately when they watch the film, it's their film. I only hope that the music resonates in them, and they carry the music with them, and the music intrigues, and they go and research about the music, and they're interested in this culture, and they visit this culture, and they can go to Jaisalmer, to these villages, uh, and their culture, reaches to more people.
Well, I think you were completely successful in that sense because as someone who didn't know about the Manganiyas, I found myself really drawn to their music, moved by the music, and wanting to know more about it. And so, yeah, in that sense, thank you for allowing me to discover this part
Thank
of
you.
India that I didn't really know anything about. It was a really special experience, and I particularly enjoyed the journey that Moti took and discovered about himself and his own culture and his own traditions. So, unless there's anything else you want to mention, we can wrap up.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for doing this Q&A session. It's been great. And for those of you watching, if you haven't seen the film, it'll be available between the 29th of October to the 4th of November. So make sure you watch it and then, you can watch this Q&A as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dharamshala International Film Festival, DIFF, to invite the film and give it an opportunity, to reach out to people. Thank you, DIFF. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.